Hi everyone, here's some of what's heading your way tonight. Your news at 9. Our nation's capital engulfed in chaos. Protesters break into the U.S. House and Senate chambers, delaying the count of electoral votes. Going to take a look at how the day started.
Governors across the country taking new steps to speed up the coronavirus vaccine rollout. I'm William LaJeunesse in Los Angeles. Details coming up.
Doug Heddy has weather tonight. Jacob Leonard has sports. This is KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Abbey. As both houses of Congress began counting electoral votes for the presidential election, protesters gathered outside the Capitol building and stormed the building. At least one police officer has been injured. Also, a 14-year woman and Air Force veteran was killed. Fox News Chief White House correspondent Sean Roberts takes a look at what started the trouble on Capitol Hill.
Mike Pence, I hope you're going to stand up for the good of our Constitution and for the good of our country. And if you're not, I'm going to be very disappointed in you. I will tell you right now. I'm not hearing good stories.
President Trump repeatedly insisting that Mike Pence had the authority to unilaterally accept or reject slates of electors that had been certified by states and sent to Congress. In a remarkable break with the president, Pence sending a letter to lawmakers saying in part, "It is my considered judgment that my oath to support and defend the Constitution constrains me from unilateral authority to determine which electoral votes should be counted and which should not." As Trump supporters marched to Capitol Hill and laid siege to the Capitol building, President Trump threw 4 years of unswerving loyalty from his vice president under the bus, tweeting, "Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. USA demands the truth." President Trump has labeled Republicans who will not support the challenge to the electors as, quote, the surrender caucus. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell saying to not certify the Electoral College vote would be the loose thread to begin unraveling democracy.
If this election were overturned by mere allegations from the losing side, our democracy would enter a death spiral. We'd never see the whole nation accept an election again. Every 4 years would be a scramble for power.
At a rally that preceded the march to the Capitol, President Trump again reciting a long list of grievances regarding the November 3rd election, and today adding, regardless of what the democratic process determines with the certification of electors, he will never accept defeat.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore.
After putting out a couple of tweets and a Twitter video to try to de-escalate the situation on Capitol Hill, President Trump tweeted again this evening saying, "These are the things and events that happen when a secret election landslide victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home in love and peace. Remember this day forever." At the White House, John Roberts, Fox News.
Missouri Senator Roy Blunt tweeted that the violence at the Capitol today is shameful and voices appreciation to Capitol Police. Senator Jim Inhofe from Oklahoma echoed the senator from Missouri thanking law enforcement and calling for an end to the violence. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley's press office issued a tweet that also called for an end to the violence and praised law enforcement. In a statement sent to KOAM News, U.S. Congressman Jake LaTurner from Kansas said, quote, "The lawless behavior at the U.S. Capitol is reprehensible and has no place in our country. This is a stain on American history, and I condemn it in the strongest possible terms." Close to 1,000 supporters of President Trump gathered today outside the Oklahoma Capitol. Protesters held Trump 2020 flags and signs that read, "Stop the Steal." The Oklahoma legislature was not in session, and much of the crowd dispersed after a light rain began to fall. About 200 people rallied at the Kansas State House today to show their support for overturning President-elect Joe Biden's victory. They chanted, "Stop the Steal, 4 more years, and no more masks." After the rally in Topeka, some of the president's supporters entered the State House peacefully, one by one or in small groups. The building was open as it usually is during the week. Also, hundreds of protesters gathered for a Stop the Steal rally at the Missouri Capitol in Jefferson City. Some said they feel disenfranchised. The CBS affiliate there, KRCG, says some protesters drove more than 2 hours to be at that rally. Doug Hetty joins us now with our first check of the forecast. Rain, dreary, you got any other words to describe today?
Cold.
Yeah.
It was kind of cold outside. We've had temperatures mainly upper 30s to lower 40s and on and off showers throughout the day. And even some snow has been mixing in across southwestern parts of Missouri. And that's going to continue as we work through the overnight hours tonight. I think it will go all over to snow in our far eastern counties and then as you work through south central parts of Missouri. But most of our viewing area is going to be a rain-snow mix. It may go over to some wet snow for a little bit, but our temperatures are going to stay above freezing. But there could be some light accumulations on the grassy side or on the grassy surfaces in southwestern parts of Missouri. But these bands of showers and snow showers will continue tonight. Of course, I'm going to break it all down for you here in just a bit.
Doug, thanks as always. The Oklahoma Department of Health will begin notifying some Oklahomans tomorrow that they are eligible for appointments to get those COVID-19 vaccines. Oklahomans who are healthcare workers, first responders, or over the age of 65 will be eligible for appointments starting tomorrow. The State Health Department says those people should check their email first thing tomorrow morning, as that will be the first opportunity to schedule their vaccine appointments. Missouri Governor Mike Parson' office says as of yesterday, about 98,000 Phase 1A people in the state received their first vaccine dose, but more than 352,000 Phase 1A people are still waiting for their first dose. Plans for a more broad distribution of the vaccine will be released next week, but no date has been announced for that Phase 1B of vaccine distribution. COVID vaccinations are progressing at Missouri's long-term care facilities. The national pharmacy chain CVS Health said today it has completed coronavirus vaccinations at more than 100 long-term care facilities in the Show Me State, but that it still has 500 more to go. U.S. Department of Health and Senior Services last year selected CVS Health and Walgreens to administer those vaccinations at nursing homes and other long-term care facilities across the United States. In Missouri, those vaccinations began on December 28th. CVS says it expects to finish administering the first round of COVID-19 vaccine doses in the nation's long-term care facilities by January 25th. Governors are taking steps to accelerate the vaccine rollout as a post-holiday surge starts to take effect, officials say. The wave of cases is overwhelming hospitals as more critical care units near capacity. Fox News national correspondent William Lajeunesse has more.
The coronavirus continuing to break records across the U.S. The country reporting more than 3,700 fatalities on Tuesday, an all-time high. In California, LA County seeing the worst of this latest surge, with some 1,000 deaths in less than a week. The state, one of several trying to contain a more contagious strain of the virus.
The more people that get COVID-19, the more problem for our healthcare system. We need to fight the strain with the vaccine and with public health measures now.
The new strain comes as the vaccine rollout hits a snag, with roughly 30% of available doses used so far. Governors in Maryland and North Carolina have mobilized the National Guard to help with distribution, while California has cleared dentists to administer the vaccine.
It makes sense. For one, we give injections all day long, so we're well trained and well versed.
States are trying to accelerate vaccinations ahead of a post-holiday surge. Hospitals already overwhelmed across the country. Intensive care units in California, Arizona, and Georgia are at or near capacity. Dr. Anthony Fauci says between 70 and 85% of the population will need to be vaccinated to reach herd immunity.
By the time we get to the third quarter of 2021, namely the beginning of the fall, that hopefully we will get that critical number.
The CDC says more than 17 million vaccines have been distributed, but just under 5 million Americans have received their first dose. In Los Angeles, William Lajeunesse, Fox News.
KOM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes this time to honor one of our four-state heroes. Glenn Percy served in the U.S. Navy during the Korean War, and we are proud to thank Glenn Percy, a native of Iola, Kansas. He is tonight's four-state hero. Doug Hetty is up next with a complete look of the forecast. A bit later in sports, it's rivalry week for Pitt State and Missouri Southern basketball. We're going to hear from both women's teams about this weekend's matchup.
Well, definitely turned out to be a gloomy day for us today. Bands of showers on and off throughout the day. It hasn't been particularly heavy, but it's been pretty persistent throughout the day. Rain's going to continue tonight. In fact, we can mix with a little bit of snow late tonight into tomorrow morning. And then we're going to stay kind of cold over the next several days. Of course, you can get my long-range forecast on my month-long blog. That is KOAMnewsnow.com. 37 in Stockton, 39 in Pitt, 39 in Neosho, and then hanging on near 40 in our western counties, Chanute, Independence, Veneta. But everybody's going to slowly drop back through the 30s during the overnight hours for us tonight. Currently outside, we're at 39. Easterly winds are light. Humidity, of course, is high. We've had the bands of rain throughout most of the day, just kind of rotating through the area. In fact, you can see a little bit of snow mixing in over towards Springfield, Branson, and then really from Table Rock all the way up into southern parts of Lawrence County. But most of the rain that is out there is fairly light, and it looks like it's going to stay decently light for us tonight. And it's kind of patchy. You can see it's scattered about. But as we work through the overnight hours, we'll see more of a mix of snow in southwestern parts of Missouri and kind of try to advance a little bit farther toward the west. This whole storm system is wrapping up north central parts of Oklahoma. It's going to slowly rotate through during the overnight hours. So periods of rain. It's going to be light as we work through the overnight. Here's 2 a.m. You can see a little bit more snow trying to mix in southwestern parts of Missouri. Could get as far west as the metro, maybe even Pittsburgh, with big fat flakes, which would mix in. As we continue into the morning hours, we'll have some light rain, light snow continuing to work through. And then I think by mid to late morning, this will slowly taper off. And then most of this will be out of here as we work into the afternoon hours. All right, so as we go into tomorrow afternoon, we'll have a few leftover showers, and then I think we look pretty good. But we'll start at 34, 36 by noon, high temp of 38 degrees. Clouds will try to break up a little bit for us tomorrow night as we drop back into the upper 20s. And then as we work into Friday, still a lot of clouds. Temperatures kind of cool. We only go up into the upper 30s for highs. All right, additional rainfall on top of what we have already seen. I think most areas a quarter of an inch, maybe a little bit more in spots. And then if we look at snowfall, you can see it's mainly in southwestern parts of Missouri. Let's go a dusting to an inch. I think the farther east you are, the better chance you have of seeing the ground a little bit white in the morning. But again, I don't expect any issues on any roadways because we're going to be staying into the mid-30s for overnight lows. 38 for a high tomorrow, 39 on Friday, 40 by Saturday, but 30 Sunday, 30s on Monday. We don't get back into the 40s or 50s until the middle part of next week.
Depressing. Doug, that's another word to describe today. Depressing.
Yeah, it's January.
Yeah. All right, we'll see you in a little bit. Thanks so much. Heads up to people in Allen County, Kansas. Kansas Department of Health and Environment issued a boil water advisory for a portion of Allen County, Rural Water District number 10. Officials say the advisory covers customers in Allen County south of Connecticut Road and that the advisory is not COVID-19 related. It stems from loss of pressure because of a water line break. Coming up, the latest from the Senate runoff races in Georgia that will decide the ruling party in the Senate. Democrats are celebrating a clean sweep of the Georgia Senate runoffs. Raphael Warnock was declared the winner over incumbent Kelly Loeffler, and John Ossoff defeated incumbent David Perdue. Fox News correspondent Peter Ducey has the latest now from Atlanta.
Shortly before Georgia's Secretary of State was escorted from Georgia's State House grounds by security officials concerned about a protest there, Fox News interviewed him about recent rhetoric.
How concerned are you, now that the election is over, about violence against yourself or your family or other elections officials?
I hope it calms down. Obviously, people are spinning people up with their emotions, with all these false allegations, misinformation, disinformation, point-by-point rebuttal. There's just everything that people are saying out there in fake media land. Like, anyone can say anything on Twitter, but it doesn't make it facts.
Brad Raffensperger is ultimately in charge of all election activity in Georgia.
Are you worried? Because a lot of this stuff sounds pretty scary. Some of the threats and some of the temperature.
I guess I've read once that when someone said calm breeds calm, panic breeds panic, and we're calm. we're focused. We want to make sure we finish up this election. We want to make sure then if there is a recount, we'll be ready to handle that.
Republican officials in charge of Georgia's elections have reviewed outstanding ballots, and they're ready to call it for the Democrats.
If Ossoff avoids that recount, so does Reverend Warnock.
Republican David Perdue is still pledging to exhaust every legal resource in his race, but Fox News projects Democrat Jon Ossoff is the winner.
It is with humility that I thank the people of Georgia.
Republican Kelly Loeffler isn't conceding either, but Fox News projects her opponent, Democrat Raphael Warnock, is heading to Washington.
Every day I'm in the United States Senate, I will fight for you.
And these Republican election officials are confident this one was clean.
Have you guys been investigating today any claims of election day fraud or early voting fraud?
We have obviously investigations, but nothing that looks like it would ever overturn these races.
There had been calls for a special session of the Georgia State Legislature to investigate claims of voter fraud in the November election. And today, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp said the events in Washington, D.C. prove that special session would have been a disaster, and he is extending now an order activating the Georgia National Guard. They will be called up here as needed. In Atlanta, Peter Ducey, Fox News.
Just ahead, the story of a woman who got results from a COVID test. Okay, problem is, though, she says she wasn't tested. Texas woman went to get tested for COVID-19, but didn't end up actually getting that test. A big point here because over the weekend she got her results anyway. Fox's Shannon Ryan has this story.
This is bizarre. Really, really bizarre.
That is how Liz Evans describes receiving COVID-19 test results for a test she never took.
It's been very weird.
On Christmas Eve, Evans traveled to a COVID-19 testing site in Pflugerville, where private medical company Davico administers curative tests. Davico is contracted by the Texas Division of Emergency Management. Evans says she scanned a QR code on the front door and set up a same-day appointment.
There were a whole bunch of people in line behind us, and all of a sudden somebody said, "Oh, heck, they just posted on their website that they're closed today."
Evans left without a test, realizing the appointment she booked wasn't going to happen. But this Sunday, she was sent what appeared to be her test results from Curative.
So I opened it up and entered my date of birth, and it opened up to the results and said, you're negative, yay.
Evans contacted Curative. Their response implied she had incorrectly received someone else's results,
which still didn't make me feel any more comfortable about their process.
Evans received incorrect results Sunday. Monday, the FDA put out a vague safety notice warning of false, particularly false negative curative test results. The release had no information as to why or how false results were being produced, and whether this could apply to someone like Evans who never got a test. A TDEM spokesperson told Fox 7 they were working with Curative to get to the bottom of Evans' case. A Curative spokesperson said they believe the error was caused by Davico and could not confirm if similar errors were made.
I really have no explanation. I can't even begin to guess.
Again, that was Fox's Shannon Ryan reporting. All right, many kids will be happy to hear some good news about Chuck E. Cheese. The pizza, games, and fun will continue. More on this when we come back. Seems Chuck E. Cheese is going to live to see another day. The parent company of the family-themed arcade, CEC Entertainment, reportedly exiting bankruptcy after undergoing a financial restructuring and paying off its $705 million debt. The company originally filed for bankruptcy in June of 2020, citing, of course, the coronavirus and related shutdowns to its downfall. However, their luck seemed to change towards the end of the year as they announced they had reorganized their finances, paid off their huge debt, and put new leadership in place. Now, obviously, today's a big, busy day for news, but hey, we can all take a break from that, right? Especially for a story about Chuck E. Cheese. Chuck E. Cheese is staying around, people. It's good news. At least for my kids, anyway. 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports. Coming away, we're going to have more on the protests in D.C., which led to the Capitol building being put on lockdown.
Labette and Cherokee County, Kansas receive COVID-19 vaccines after their allocations are held up in Crawford County. I'm Zach Dodge with the story.
We have more details of those protests at the Capitol, which led to protesters storming the Capitol building. It's a moment many thought the country would never see. Fox News correspondent Lauren Blanchard reports from Washington with the latest.
Federal authorities are on high alert, actively working to make sure the area surrounding the U.S. Capitol is safe and secure from any more threats.
Everybody stay down!
Chilling images capture the scene inside the halls of Congress. Protesters managed to breach security barriers, storming into the Senate chamber and the offices of lawmakers. Some of them getting access to the Senate floor, coming face to face with lawmakers and law enforcement. Washington, D.C.'s mayor put a curfew in place, urging people to stay away.
The behavior that we are witnessing is shameful, unpatriotic, and above all, it is unlawful.
The size of the crowd outside appeared to overwhelm Capitol police officers. Earlier in the day, on the National Mall, President Trump addressed his large crowd of supporters and asked them to march to the Capitol to peacefully protest the results of the 2020 election. Later, the president reacted to the violence.
We have to have peace. So go home.
The chaos interrupted Congress's certification of the 2020 election. Order was restored hours later, and late this evening, Congress met again to continue the process of tallying electoral votes. President-elect Biden called the violent standoff an act of insurrection.
America is so much better than what we've seen today.
Police say a woman who was shot during all of the chaos has died from her injuries. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Joplin School Board today voted to extend a policy offering paid sick leave for workers who test positive for COVID-19. A federal policy giving workers 10 days of sick leave expired on December 31st. The school board is extending it, however, until June 30th. Freeman OcuMed today gave us a look at its new blood alcohol testing unit. Freeman officials tell us the new machines are an upgrade from the original tests with an easier to read screen. More Southeast Kansas counties are getting coronavirus vaccines. You may remember last week we reported that 100 doses of Moderna vaccine were in Crawford County when they were designated for Labette and Cherokee County. Well, now the vaccines are where they need to be. KOAM's Zach Dodge has what happens now.
Labette County Sheriff Darren Eisinger says now the vaccines are at the sheriff's office, it will be a good thing for everyone.
Deputies are out here looking that don't know who has it and has come in contact with people. I think it'll help both sides.
Staff at the sheriff's office have started getting their first doses of Moderna's coronavirus vaccine. So far, 16 people, around half of the department's staff, have taken the first dose. Many of them are jail staff, something that Eisinger says he pushed for, since in the last month, the jail's been dealing with a surge in COVID cases. Overall, they've seen 41 positives, and the jail can't currently take any new inmates.
I think that will help on our side as far as people being off work for 10 days, keeping our numbers up with our jail staff.
Cherokee County has also received their allocation of vaccines, with staff here at the sheriff's office getting access later this week.
65 residents who are in the healthcare profession, either a medical provider, pharmacist, ambulance, emergency medical personnel. So those have been administered as of this point.
At the end of December, the vaccines for both counties were stuck in Crawford County. At that point, Groves told us they were supposed to be sent directly to CHC SEK in Baxter Springs, but the state had them sent to the health department in Pittsburgh instead. So both counties had to submit paperwork to the state to get them where they needed to go.
I don't remember what day we did the interview, but it was within maybe the next day, possibly the day after that. So it was relatively quick.
He explains that doses will continue to go through Crawford County, but no matter how they come, both sheriffs are glad to see a light at the end of the tunnel.
The sooner we can get to that next phase of mitigating some of that hardship, the better.
In Labette and Cherokee County, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
The state of Kansas is still in the first phase of their distribution plan. Officials expect vaccines to be available to the general public in the spring, with availability becoming widespread in the summer. A bit later, more details of the decision to not file charges against police officers.
A prosecutor in Kenosha, Wisconsin announces a decision in the shooting of Jacob Blake. I'm Kevin Cork in Washington. We'll tell you about that, plus the fallout, coming right up.
Well, of course, it turned out to be a gloomy day for us today. Temperatures, they did get up into lower 40s for highs, but that was about it. We've had kind of on and off showers all day long. We're going to have rain tonight, even mixing with or changing over to a little bit of snow late tonight and then into tomorrow morning. Plus, it stays kind of cold over the next several days. You can always get my long-range forecast on my month-long blog, KOAMNewsNow.com. Our pattern, we're in a little bit of a lull, even though we're still getting storm systems through, but not any big storm systems. But of course, you can always get that long-range forecast on KOAMNewsNow.com. All right, upper 30s to near 40, so we are about 6-7 degrees too warm to see anything really frozen-wise across the region. So we're getting all liquid rain, a very cold rain, and currently outside in Joplin, sitting at about 39 east, northeasterly winds at 5. Humidity, of course, is up there. On and off showers throughout the day. We've had a few pockets of moderate rain, but most of this has been fairly light. And you can actually see it kind of picking back up southwestern parts of Missouri and rotating back toward the northwest around an area of low pressure. So we're going to have these on and off showers across the entire region throughout the overnight hours for us tonight. You can see a little bit of a break, Iola, Chanute, down toward Independence, and then Pittsburgh, Nevada, not seeing much action. Once you get out toward Stockton Lake, down toward Mount Vernon, Neosho, and then McDonald County, it starts to pick back up. Also picks up a little bit in northeastern parts of Oklahoma. Where you are seeing the blue across Berry County, Mount Vernon east, that is mixing with or changing over to a little bit of snow. We're going to see that trend as we go through the overnight hours tonight as this whole storm system, the center is just to the east of Oklahoma City, slowly pivots off toward the east. All right, for us tonight, these on and off showers across the region. Look at the pink starting to mix in just a bit. Southwestern parts of Missouri. That is going to be some light snow late tonight into tomorrow morning. So by morning, we'll have a mix of rain and snow. Again, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal because temperatures are going to stay in the mid-30s. So even if we do get a bout of snow, it should not accumulate on the roadways. But some of us may get some light accumulation on the grassy surfaces, best chance southwestern Missouri. This whole storm system starts to wrap up late in the day. Most of the showers will start to taper off, and then this storm system will work out. Additional rainfall from this point on, I think most of us, 0.2 of an inch, maybe 0.3 of an inch in spots. Snow-wise, it's going to be very light, and again, most of it's going to melt on contact, but we could see dusting, maybe upwards to 0.5 inch. I think an inch of snow would stay mainly across south central parts of Missouri. 38 tomorrow, light rain snow mix in the morning, 39 Friday, 40 on Saturday, 39 Sunday with a few flurries. So it stays cold over the next several days, and then eventually 40s and 50s return the middle of next week.
Yeah, have that umbrella sticking around, right?
Yeah, you're definitely going to need it tonight into tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Doug, thanks as always. Appreciate it. Coming up in sports, Webb City kicking off the Kaminsky Classic over at Joplin High School. Plus, going to hear from the Missouri Southern and Pitt State women's basketball teams about Rivalry Week.
Well, tonight is opening night at the Kaminsky Classic at Joplin High School. And there are two pool play games tonight, beginning with the Webb City Cardinals facing the Clever Blue Jays. Webb City is 5-1, ranked 8th in the state in Class 5 coming out of the holiday break. First quarter, Mekhi Gerard, he had 22 points tonight. Cards up 8 going to the second. They did real damage in that second quarter. Caden Turner, 3-ball, then it's Cole Vaden knocking one down. Finally, Mekhi Howard, nice look to Alex Martin. Webb City outscores Clever 24-8 in the second. Mekhi Howard, easy pull up here. 16 points for him, added 6 assists. Then in the fourth, Trenton Hayes, good from the top of the key. All Webb City tonight. Cards win this one big, 75-42. To the nightcap now, tournament host Joplin on the floor against Carl Junction. Dante Washington, nice night for him. Knocks down the 3. The two teams trade baskets early. Alex Baker scoring on the other end for CJ. Dogs down one after one. The second quarter, All Right gets going. Tough drive here to score. This one a little easier. 7 for Wright in the second quarter alone, 15 for the night. Back to Washington, though. He led the way with 16 for Joplin. Eagles get by Carl Junction this evening, 63-52. This week is rivalry week for Pittsburgh State and Missouri Southern. The two teams will meet on Saturday at John Lance Arena in Pittsburgh. On the women's side, it's a battle of two teams playing pretty well right now. Both the Lions and Gorillas have won 4 games in a row heading into this weekend's game. So this one is big, not just because it's a rivalry, because these two teams are battling for position in the MIAA standings.
Through the years, rivalries get built for different reasons. This one, majority of it is because of the location. But I think, at the same time, it's two teams that are going to be battling. I know they're on a 4-game winning streak, so are we. And so it's both teams trying to battle just in the kind of identical situation where neither team wants to lose. And so I think that adds a little bit to the fire.
It's such a great rivalry. To me, it's a fun rivalry in that aspect. And our returning kids understand it. Their returning kids understand the importance of it. Our new kids sometimes don't understand until they've been in it and played in it. Then they get a good feeling of it.
That's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
Charging decision in one of the cases that fueled nationwide protests against racial injustice. Fox News correspondent Kevin Cork has the details and the fallout.
No charges will be filed in the shooting of Jacob Blake. The top prosecutor in Kenosha, Wisconsin, announcing Tuesday he will not bring criminal charges against Rustin Shesky, the officer who shot Blake 7 times in the back last summer, leaving him paralyzed from the waist down.
There's been a group of people who have said, you need to charge these officers because it will send a clear message to all officers everywhere about how they need to police in future. I call that the send a message charging decision.
The shooting in August reignited protests against police brutality and racial injustice. It happened nearly 3 months after George Floyd's death touched off the largest civil rights movement since the 1960s. Days after the Blake shooting, then 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse was arrested for fatally shooting 2 people and wounding a 3rd during a night of unrest. Rittenhouse pleaded not guilty Tuesday to all charges against him.
Any and all previously imposed bond conditions and issues of bail have remained in full force and effect.
Following the prosecutor's decision not to file charges, protesters took to the streets of Kenosha once again, demanding justice for Blake, as well as George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others.
There's three justice systems in America. There's one for black and brown people, one for police officers, and one for the rest of America.
Shesky, a 7-year veteran of the Kenosha Police Department, was placed on administrative leave following that incident. In Washington, I'm Kevin Cork, Fox News.
All right, when we come back, preview of Fox's Prodigal Son returning for a new season this week. Thriller Prodigal Son is ready to make its big return with another season full of drama, surprises, twists, and turns. We spoke with the cast about what's coming up in the next chapter of their story. Here's Fox's Ashley Dvorkin.
Let's talk turkey, by which I mean murder.
Fox's Prodigal Son Season 1 ended on a big twist, which Halston Sage was excited to deliver.
Everyone, the whole season, was kind of led to believe that Malcolm might do something like that. Sorry, Tom. But for it to have been Ainsley was completely unexpected and a dream come true for me.
Season 2 will be just as twisty and bring more personal drama for Tom Payne's Malcolm Bright.
You did nothing. I did this, Ainsley.
A ton more questions that Malcolm has about his sister, about his sister's relationship with her father, and just all of these different questions. And then Mum doesn't know.
Along with its signature dark comedy and thrills, the show is set in the real world. Bellamy Young shares how aspects of the past year will be reflected.
I spent months cooped up with your sister in quarantine practicing piano.
COVID actually has definitely happened in the world of Prodigal Son, and quarantine definitely happened in the world of Prodigal Son. Also, racial profiling within the NYPD is definitely happening within the world of our show. And I'm super proud of our writers for how they haven't stepped away or shied back from any of the truth of what this year has brought for all of us.
Both my kids are in such a good place.
What exactly do the two of you think you're up to?
And as for that Whitley family dynamic, she says, get ready for a brand new Prodigal chapter.
That story, went from like father, like son to like father, like daughter? ?
Honey, I'm home.
Prodigal Son Season 2 premieres January 12th on Fox. Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
One of my favorite shows right now. That's our time for tonight. Thanks for joining us. Going to leave you with video of a lava dome at a Hawaii volcano. Be safe. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.